Mara Hale was halfway back from the barn when she heard it, a strangled sob cutting through the dark like something wounded. She stopped cold, breath held, listening for it again. Another sound followed, thin and broken. Mara felt her chest tighten as she moved toward the fence line slowly. The fence stood low and rusted, but the figure tied against it made Mara's steps falter. Leah Kane, the sheriff's daughter, slumped forward with her wrists bound to the barbed wire. Her head hung to the side, hair tangled, breath shaking like she'd fought for hours and finally lost there. Mara hurried the last few steps and knelt beside her. Leah lifted her face just enough for their eyes to meet, and the fear there hit harder than anything Mara expected. She reached for the ropes, fingers trembling. "Who did this?" she asked, voice low, steady despite the storm inside. Leah shook her head weakly. Don't make me say." Her voice cracked like something splintering. Mara swallowed hard, pulled out the kitchen knife she kept on her belt, and started cutting through the knots. The blade scraped the tensioned wire, sending a sharp echo through the dark around them. When the last rope snapped free, Leah collapsed against her, shaking so hard Mara had to brace both arms around her. Leah's breath hitched, fast and shallow. "Easy," Mara whispered. "I've got you now." But Leah's trembling only grew worse, like the darkness itself was still reaching for her there. Mara scanned the tree line, her eyes adjusting to the thin strip of moonlight. Something felt off. The quiet had a weight to it, as if something had been standing there moments ago and slipped away when she approached. Leah clung tighter, fingers gripping Mara's shirt like she feared being. "Please," Leah whispered. Her voice barely existed. Mara steadied her and tried to see her face in the dim light. The girl looked half frozen, half broken. "Don't take me home." The words came out sharp, desperate. Mara felt them land heavy. "Why not?" she asked, though the truth already stirred inside. Leah shook her head again, slow this time, like even the motion hurt. "He'll kill me," she said, voice flat with certainty. The way she said it left no space for doubt. Mara's stomach dropped as if the ground shifted. "Who?" she asked quietly, but Leah only closed her eyes. Mara took a breath, steadying herself the way she did during storms. She slid an arm around Leah's back, lifting her gently. The girl winced but didn't fight. She looked small, smaller than Mara remembered. "We're leaving this place," Mara murmured. "You're safe with me." Leah leaned into her without. Together they moved from the fence, the night settling behind them like something closing its eyes. Mara kept her grip firm, guiding Leah across the dirt toward the truck. Leah stumbled once, breath catching. "I'm right here," Mara said. Leah nodded weakly, as if the words were enough for her. Mara opened the truck door and eased Leah inside. The girl winced as the seat creaked beneath her, curling slightly as if bracing for another blow. Mara brushed a strand of hair from Leah's face. "You're all right," she said softly. Leah didn't answer. She stared ahead, body shaking with leftover. For a moment Mara stood outside, one hand on the door, listening for any sign that whoever tied the girl was still nearby. The trees gave nothing back but the restless rustle of leaves. Mara climbed into the driver's seat and exhaled slowly, letting the weight of the moment settle. She turned toward Leah, who was curled against the window like she wanted to disappear into the glass. "We're leaving now," Mara said, voice steady. Leah blinked, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Okay," she whispered. Mara reached over, pulled the door shut with a firm click, and prepared to drive. The truck door slammed hard enough to shake Leah's breath loose. She flinched like the sound hit her skin. Mara froze for a second, watching the girl fold in on herself, shoulders tight, hands pulled close like she expected another blow. Mara started the engine slow, not wanting to rattle her again, but Leah still shrank from the vibration beneath the seat. A pair of headlights swept across the road as Mara eased onto the dirt path. Leah jerked back like the light itself was hunting her. Mara frowned. "It's just a car," she said gently. Leah shook her head. "You don't know that." Mara kept one hand on the wheel and let the other rest near Leah, close enough to be comfort but not force. She studied the girl, the bruises blooming under her sleeves, the rope marks still bright and angry. Something twisted inside Mara at the sight. "Your daddy needs to know," she said. "He'll be worried sick." "No," Leah's voice came sharp, too fast, too certain. She twisted toward Mara with a panic so raw it felt like heat. "Don't call him. Don't even think about it." Mara blinked. "Leah, he's the sheriff." "I don't care," Leah snapped. Silence followed, heavy, shaking. Leah lowered her voice. "You can't tell him. You can't." Mara stared at the uneven road. "He's still your father." Leah pulled her sleeve back with trembling fingers, revealing bruises not shaped like rope. Round marks. Impact marks. Old ones. Fresh ones. "That didn't come from the fence," she whispered. "Do you understand now?" Mara felt her grip tighten on the wheel. Her heartbeat turned loud in her ears, the rage cold and focused. "Leah," she said softly, "did he?" "Don't." Leah looked out the window quickly, cutting the question in half. "Please. I don't want to say it." They passed another stretch of dark road. The cab felt too small for the weight inside it. Leah kept glancing at the empty back seat, eyes darting like she expected someone to rise up from the shadows. Mara noticed. "What are you looking at back there?" Leah swallowed. "Nothing." "You sure?" Leah didn't answer. The silence that followed wasn't normal silence. It felt like someone else was breathing with them. Mara didn't like that feeling, didn't like the way Leah's gaze kept drifting there as if shadow carried memory. Mara cleared her throat. "Your daddy, he always seemed like a family man." Leah let out a tiny, humorless sound. "That's the point. Everyone thinks that. Everyone thinks he's the man who saves everyone else." Her voice thinned. "But he didn't save me." Mara's chest tightened again. She wanted to ask more but didn't want to push the girl into breaking. "All right," she said carefully. "No calling him. We'll take this one step at a time." Leah nodded, though her breath stayed shaky. The ranch came into view slowly, the porch light glowing a tired gold. Mara's home looked soft from a distance, like something safe. Leah stared at it with wide, fearful eyes. As the truck rolled to a stop, Leah stiffened. Her hand hovered over the door handle but wouldn't touch it. Mara watched her. "We're home now," she said. "You can come inside." Leah didn't move. "Leah?" Mara leaned toward her. "Hey. Look at me." Leah finally turned her head. Her eyes were wet but steady. "Just, don't shut me out." The words were small, like she'd said them before to someone who didn't listen. Mara's voice softened. "I won't." But Leah still sat frozen at the open door, staring at the house like she wasn't sure if stepping inside meant safety or another kind of trap. And that's where the moment held, everything trembling between fear and hope, as the porch light flickered once in the quiet. Mara guided Leah through the doorway slowly, keeping a hand near her back without touching her. The girl stepped inside like the floor might fall through. The kitchen light hummed overhead, soft and steady, the only warm thing in the room. Mara shut the door behind them and felt Leah flinch at the sound. She kept her voice low. "Sit," she said. "I'll get water going." Leah lowered herself into the chair like she wasn't sure she deserved to sit anywhere. Her eyes followed Mara's every movement, wide and alert, as if danger lived inside every corner. Mara filled a pot, set it on the stove, and watched it begin to shimmer under the heat. She pulled out a small tin of salt and a clean cloth. Leah's hands were folded tight in her lap, knuckles pale. Mara stepped closer. "Let me see your wrists." Leah hesitated, then lifted her arms slowly. The rope burns looked worse in the kitchen light, red and ridged. Mara breathed deeply. "This is going to sting." "It's fine," Leah whispered. "No. It's not." Leah looked away, jaw trembling. Mara dipped the cloth in warm salt water and pressed it gently to the wounds. Leah flinched, breath catching. "Sorry," Mara murmured. "It's okay," Leah said. "I'm used to worse." Mara froze. "What does that mean?" Leah didn't answer. She stared at the table, her shoulders curling forward as if trying to fold herself small enough to disappear. Mara wiped the burns carefully, slow and steady. When she finished, she sat in the chair opposite her, close enough to offer safety without crowding. After a long silence, Leah spoke. "He watches us." Mara lifted her head. "Who?" Leah kept her eyes on the table. "Not him." "Not at first." A cold pulse moved through Mara. "Explain." Leah shook her head like the words hurt to remember. "There's someone else in the house. Someone who comes when the lights go out. Dad pretends he doesn't hear it. Pretends no one's there. But I hear the footsteps. I feel the door open. I know when he's standing in the hallway." The kitchen lights flickered just then, brief but sharp. Leah gasped and grabbed the edge of the table. Mara reached out instinctively. "It's just old wiring," she said. But the truth sat wrong in her chest. Houses didn't react like that without reason. Leah spoke again, voice barely a breath. "Sometimes he stands right outside my room. I don't move. I don't make a sound. I just wait for it to be over." Mara felt heat rising behind her ribs. "Leah, who are you talking about? Who's coming into your house at night?" Leah shook her head again. "I don't know. I only see shadows. But he smells like smoke. Old smoke. Like something burned a long time ago." Her voice thinned. "Dad told me not to ask questions. Told me it was none of my business. Told me to keep quiet." Mara leaned forward. "Did he hurt you?" Leah didn't answer at first. Her breath hitched. "Someone did," she whispered. "Someone Dad let inside." The room seemed to grow colder. Mara held her gaze steady, trying not to overwhelm her. "You're safe here," she said. "I won't let anyone touch you." Leah finally looked up, eyes glassy and tired. "You can't promise that." "I can," Mara said. "And I do." Leah stared at her for a long moment, something softening in her expression. Then she blinked hard, wiping her cheek with the back of her hand. "Mara?" "Yes?" "Can I stay close tonight?" Leah's voice trembled, shame woven into it, like she expected rejection. Mara didn't hesitate. "Of course." Leah lowered her head. "I can't sleep alone." The confession hung in the dim kitchen, heavy and fragile, and Mara felt something settle in her, something protective and unyielding, like a storm turning in her bones. She stood and reached for the kettle, the steam rising between them in the quiet. "You're not alone anymore," she said. Mara led Leah down the short hallway, her steps slow so the girl wouldn't feel pushed. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of night settling over old wood. Leah walked close behind her, arms wrapped around herself, eyes darting to every doorway as if something might step out. Mara pushed open her own bedroom door and let the warm lamplight spill across the quilt. "You'll sleep here tonight," she said. "I'll take the chair." Leah shook her head quickly. "No. I don't want you far." "I won't go anywhere," Mara said. "I'll stay right beside you." Leah hovered at the edge of the bed, touching the blanket like she wasn't sure it was real. She lowered herself carefully, stiff as a board, hands in her lap. Mara sat on the edge, close but not touching. The lamplight made Leah's face look smaller, washed out, like she'd aged backward into something fragile. Leah's eyes wandered around the room. "I dreamed of this house," she said. Mara frowned. "When?" "Before I ever came here." Leah's voice was trembling but steady enough. "In the dreams, I was sitting on this bed. The same blanket. Same smell. Same window." Mara hesitated. Dreams can be strange. Leah shook her head. Not this strange. Mara tried to slow her own breathing. You're safe now. Dreams don't hurt. Leah let out a thin sound that wasn't quite a laugh. You don't understand. Mine do. Mara turned slightly. Tell me. Leah kept her gaze on the window. In the dreams, something pulls me from my room. Something drags me down the hallway. I can't scream. I can't fight. I'm tied to something. Sometimes the fence. Sometimes a chair. Sometimes nothing at all. Just, tied to fear. Her voice cracked. And I can smell smoke every time. Mara swallowed. Smoke? Leah nodded. Like a fire that burned out long before I was born. Mara's hand twitched, wanting to reach for her, but she held back. You're here now. Nothing's coming for you. Leah looked down. That's what Dad said. The room stayed silent long enough for Mara to feel the weight of it pressing on her ribs. She watched Leah's hands tremble against the blanket. She gently moved a strand of hair from the girl's face. Lie down, she said softly. Try to rest. Leah hesitated, then slowly lowered herself back onto the pillows. She stared at the ceiling like she expected it to open. Mara pulled the blanket over her and sat nearby. Leah's breath steadied a little under the warmth. Mara stayed still, hands folded, listening to the soft rise and fall of the girl's breathing. After a few minutes, Leah began to whisper in her sleep. At first the words made no sense, just fragments floating up. Then clearer. Don't tie me again, please, please, don't tie me again. Mara's stomach clenched. She leaned in. Leah, she whispered. You're dreaming. But Leah didn't wake. Her hands pushed weakly at the air, tears sliding down the sides of her face. Mara reached out and lightly touched her arm. It's all right. I'm here. Leah's breathing steadied for a moment. Then silence fell again, heavy and strange. Mara leaned back, eyes drifting toward the window. The night outside felt thick, like something pressed against the glass without touching it. She shook the thought away and reached for the lamp, dimming it to a low glow. She stayed awake, watching over Leah. Minutes stretched, quiet and steady, until the air shifted, sharp and sudden. Leah's legs jerked. Her hands clawed at the blanket. A raw scream ripped out of her, shaking the room. Mara, she cried out, voice breaking open like lightning splitting wood. Mara shot forward, grabbing her shoulders gently. Leah! You're here. Wake up. Leah gasped, eyes snapping open, chest heaving as she clung to Mara like she was the only solid thing left in the world. The scream still echoed through the room like quiet thunder fading into the dark. Leah was still shaking when the dawn light crept in, a pale line across the wooden floor. Mara kept an arm around her until the trembling eased, but Leah stayed pressed close, breath unsteady. Mara knew the girl hadn't slept again after the nightmare, not really. She was still whispering half-formed echoes of it under her breath when the sound hit the house, 3 heavy knocks, each one rattling the door like someone meant to break it. Leah froze. Her fingers dug into Mara's sleeve. Mara stood slowly, steadying her voice. Stay here. She eased Leah back onto the bed, but Leah shook her head violently, eyes wide with terror. Mara whispered, I won't let anything happen to you. Then she stepped into the hallway, each knock sharper than the last. When she reached the front door, she already knew who it was. Sheriff Kane stood on the porch, tall, heavy, jaw clenched so tight the muscle jumped in his cheek. His hand hovered near his holster, not touching it but close enough to say he could if he wanted. Mara opened the door only halfway. It's early, she said. Where's my daughter? His voice hit like a slap. She's sleeping. She's coming home. The sheriff leaned forward like he expected Mara to move aside. Mara didn't. She says otherwise. The sheriff's eyes flicked past her, scanning the house like he could sense Leah's fear from the doorway. "She's confused," he said. "You know how kids get." Mara kept her face blank. "She was tied to a fence last night." His jaw tightened. "She ran off. Had herself a panic spell." "That wasn't panic." He took one step closer, boots loud on the porch. "She's my daughter, Mara. I'll take her home." "She doesn't want to go." "Since when do you take orders from a scared kid?" His voice grew sharper, louder, like he wanted Leah to hear it. "Since she came to me hurt," Mara said. She kept her tone even. "Since she begged me not to take her back to you." The sheriff's eyes burned. "She's lying. She had rope burns. She does things for attention." "Bruises too," Mara added. For the first time, he hesitated. Just for a second. Then his expression hardened again. "You don't know what you're talking about." Mara lifted her chin. "Then you explain them." Kane's gaze drifted down the porch rail, and for a heartbeat something ugly passed through his eyes, something like calculation. Mara's stomach turned cold. She followed his gaze and saw it. A faint rope burn on his wrist. The same pattern she cleaned from Leah's skin. He caught her looking and tugged his sleeve down fast. "I'm not playing this game," he said. "She's coming with me." "No." "Mara," he growled, stepping in close enough for her to smell the stale coffee on his breath. "Move." "I said no." The sheriff's hand twitched near his hip. Mara felt her pulse spike. She knew what he was capable of. The whole town did, even if they pretended otherwise. She held her ground anyway. Inside the bedroom, Leah whimpered. Kane's attention jumped toward the sound. "She's frightened," he said. "She needs her father. She needs safety." "I am her safety," he snapped. Mara's voice dropped to a careful whisper. "Are you?" Kane's nostrils flared. His eyes locked on hers, cold and dangerous. "You think you can keep her from me? You think this ranch means anything against my badge?" Mara didn't blink. "Your badge didn't tie her to that fence." He stared hard, rage rising behind his eyes, but something else too, fear. He searched the yard like he expected someone else to be there, someone watching. Mara followed his gaze again. The way he scanned the shadows felt wrong, like he wasn't looking for Leah at all. He pressed his hand against the doorframe, leaning in. "This ends now," he muttered. "Give her to me." "I won't." For a long moment they stood locked in a silent standoff. The porch groaned under their weight. The air felt tight enough to snap. Leah let out another small sound from the bedroom, and Kane tried to push forward. Mara stepped in front of him, blocking the entrance with her full weight. "You're not coming in." His face darkened. "Mara." "No," her voice was quiet but immovable. "Leave." The sheriff glared at her, breathing hard, jaw twitching. Then he stepped back, boots thudding against the wood. "You'll regret this," he said. Mara didn't look away. He turned and walked off the porch, each step echoing like something cracking open. She shut the door on his shadow, the slam shaking the whole house. Mara leaned against the closed door for a moment, feeling the vibration of the slam echo through her ribs. The sheriff's footsteps faded across the yard, but Leah's breathing was still sharp in the bedroom. Mara pushed herself away from the door and walked back down the hallway. Leah sat on the edge of the bed, curled tight, eyes locked on the doorway like she expected her father to burst through it. "He's gone," Mara said softly. Leah shook her head. "He never leaves. He's not coming in this house. He doesn't have to." Leah rubbed her wrists, still red from the ropes. "He always finds a way." Mara sat beside her. "We need to talk about what happened." Leah kept her gaze low. "No. You have to tell me who tied you to that fence." Leah's voice cracked. "Dad didn't do it." Mara blinked. "Then who?" Leah hesitated so long it felt like the whole room held its breath. He knows who did, she whispered. He let it happen. Mara felt heat spike behind her ribs. Explain that. Leah closed her eyes, trying to steady herself. I heard him last week. He was in the kitchen talking to someone. I thought it was one of his deputies, but the voice, it was wrong. Deep. Old. Like someone who shouldn't still be alive. Mara stiffened. What was he saying? Leah swallowed hard. He said, "Don't leave marks this time." Mara almost dropped the cup she was holding. The words peeled something open inside her. Your father said that? Yes. And the other man? Leah shuddered. He didn't answer. He laughed. A slow, quiet laugh. Like he enjoyed hearing me cry. Mara's stomach twisted. Did you see him? Only pieces. Leah lifted her eyes, haunted. A tall man. Gray hat. Boots that sound like they're full of gravel. He stands in the hallway at night. I hear him breathing through the door. Mara felt the room shift, the air turning colder. The description scraped something familiar in her memory, something from whispers passed around town years ago. Leah, there hasn't been anyone like that in your father's house. Leah shook her head violently. There is. He walks past my room. He touches the doorframe sometimes. I feel it shake. Dad says I'm imagining things. But I know what I see. Mara opened her mouth, closed it, then forced herself to ask the question she didn't want to. What does he want from you? Leah looked down. Everything. Her voice barely existed. He said I need to learn to be quiet. Said the family promised him that. Mara froze. What family? Mine, Leah whispered. Mara's pulse stuttered. Something old and rotten lived beneath those words. Leah, what happened last night? Tell me the truth. Leah squeezed her eyes shut. He came into my room. He grabbed me. Dad walked in and didn't stop him. Just said, take her somewhere she'll learn. And then everything went dark. When I woke up, I was at the fence. Mara felt fury rise so fast she had to clench her jaw to keep from yelling. Your father let that man touch you? He owes him, Leah said. Dad says this man protected him once. That he can't turn his back on him now. Mara stood abruptly, pacing the room in tight, explosive steps. There's no man alive your father owes that kind of loyalty to. Leah's eyes lifted slowly. There is. Who? Mara demanded. Leah hesitated, breath shaking, the name trembling on her lips like a secret that lived in the walls. Then she whispered it. Reeves. Mara froze mid-step, blood running cold. The name hit her with the weight of an old story she wished she'd never heard. And from the silence that followed, the house seemed to listen. The name hung in the room like smoke that wouldn't clear. Mara felt her throat tighten as she stared at Leah, who looked smaller than ever on the edge of the bed. Reeves is dead, Mara said quietly. He's been dead for years. Leah shook her head. No, he hasn't. People saw his grave. Then they buried the wrong man. Mara rubbed a hand across her face, trying to push away the sudden memory, the hushed stories, the warnings whispered across the ranch years ago, the shadowed talk of the sheriff's father and the monster he kept on a leash. Reeves. A man who disappeared without a funeral anyone trusted. A man who hurt people because the old sheriff said he could. Mara sat down again. How do you know it's him? Leah pulled her knees to her chest. I remember his voice. I remember the way he breathed near the doorway. I didn't know his name then, but when Dad said it last week, when he said Reeves will handle it, I knew. Mara's jaw clenched. Your father said that? Yes. And he let Reeves in the house. Leah nodded, trembling. He let him walk through the halls. He let him stand at my door. Dad said Reeves was the only one who ever protected our family. Protected him. I don't understand why. Mara looked away, a cold dread crawling up her spine. I do. Leah's eyes widened. Tell me. Reeves worked for your grandfather, Mara said. Back when this town was quieter on the surface and crueler underneath. He carried out the things your grandfather didn't want his own hands stained with. People were scared of him. They still are. Even dead. He's not dead, Leah whispered. Mara didn't argue. The truth felt too close, too sharp. There were rumors, she said. That your father made a deal to keep Reeves hidden. That he owed him something. But no one knew what. And no one wanted to know. Leah hugged herself tighter. He said he'd come back for me. Mara stiffened. Reeves said that? Leah nodded slowly. He said I was part of the deal now. Mara reached out, placing a hand on Leah's shoulder. You're not part of anyone's deal. Leah's breath shuddered. You didn't hear him. You don't know how he moves. He doesn't walk like a normal person. It's like his feet drag the floor. Like he's carrying something heavy behind him. He stands in the hallway and waits for me to look at him. Mara felt her stomach twist. When was the last time you saw him? The night before the fence. Leah pressed her forehead to her knees. He came to my room. Dad was downstairs. He didn't stop him. He didn't even try. Mara's voice dropped. What did Reeves do? Leah's voice broke. He covered my mouth. He whispered that Dad told him I needed to learn respect. He said he'd teach me outside where no one could hear me scream. Mara shut her eyes tight. Rage built behind her ribs, cold and dangerous. That's why he tied you to the fence. Leah nodded with a tiny sob. He said the fence was just the beginning. Mara stood up fast, the chair scraping the floor. She crossed the room, trying to think, trying to breathe. Your father can't protect him forever. People talk. No one talks enough, Leah said. Everyone's scared of Dad. They're terrified of Reeves. They pretend everything's fine because they want to believe the sheriff family keeps order. They keep silence, Mara muttered. That's what they keep. The farm dogs outside began barking, sudden and sharp. Leah jolted upright. Mara's hand instinctively reached for the shotgun she kept leaning in the corner of the room. The barking grew louder, more frantic, like something was moving close to the house. Mara grabbed the shotgun and motioned for Leah to stay put. Don't move. Leah's voice barely reached her. Is it him? I don't know, Mara said. Her heart hammered in her chest. But something's out there. The floor creaked near the window. Leah's breath caught. Someone was moving just outside the house. Mara moved toward the window slowly, shotgun steady in her hands. Leah stayed near the bed, breath caught in her throat, eyes locked on Mara's back like the world depended on it. The barking outside rose in frantic bursts, then cut sharply, like the dogs had pulled back in fear rather than rage. Mara eased the curtain aside just enough to see the yard. Nothing moved. But the quiet was too heavy, too staged, as if someone held the night in place with both hands. Mara whispered, "Stay behind me." She opened the door and stepped onto the porch. The air carried the faint smell of wet earth and something older underneath. Leah hovered at the doorway, gripping the frame like she couldn't let go. The sunrise had barely begun, thin light stretching across the fence line. Mara's boots crunched softly on the dirt as she approached the yard. "If someone's out here," she called, "you don't want me to find you creeping around my house." No answer. Just a sudden shift of shadow near the fence. Mara turned sharply, raising the shotgun. "Show yourself." A figure stepped out from behind the post, hands lifted slightly. Leah let out a sob of terror, but Mara kept her stance locked. Then the light caught his face. Sheriff Kane. He stood at the fence with his jaw tight, eyes hollowed by exhaustion or rage or both. His hand wasn't on his holster this time, but close enough to remind her it could be. Leah hid behind Mara, half shielded by her shoulder. Cain took a breath. "You surprised me," he said. Mara didn't lower the shotgun. "What are you doing on my land before sunrise?" "Checking on my daughter." "You lost that right." He flinched at the words, though he tried to hide it. "She's scared. She runs to the nearest safe face and thinks it's the truth. She doesn't know what she's talking about." Leah's voice rose from behind Mara, thin but loud enough. "I know exactly what I'm talking about." Cain's jaw clenched. "Leah. Come home." "No." Mara stepped forward slightly, blocking Leah completely. Cain frowned at the motion, eyes narrowing. "You're making this worse." "You tied her to a fence," Mara said. "I didn't," he snapped. "I'd never do that." "Then who?" His lips parted, but nothing came out. Just the flicker of something, fear, guilt, something darker, crossing his face. Mara saw it. Leah saw it. Mara tightened her grip. "Where is Reeves?" Cain looked at her sharply. "Gone." "Liar." "He's gone," Cain repeated, voice tightening. "Dead. Buried." "He was in your house last week," Leah said shakily. "I heard you talking to him." Cain's eyes flicked to her, then away. "You heard wrong." Mara stepped closer, shotgun still raised. "We both know Reeves isn't the type to stay buried." Cain's gaze sharpened into something cold. "You don't know what you're protecting." "Yes," Mara said. "I do." Cain looked past Mara again, scanning the yard like he expected someone else to appear. The way his eyes tracked the shadows made Mara's skin prickle. He wasn't just worried about them. He was looking for someone. Or checking if someone had followed him. Leah whispered, "Dad, is he coming?" Cain didn't answer. Instead, he turned toward Leah and spoke with a quiet desperation that would have sounded like love to anyone who didn't know better. "You don't understand what kind of danger you're in." "She's safe with me," Mara said. "No one's safe from Reeves." Cain's voice trembled before he steadied it again. "You think I want this? You think I asked for any of it?" He shook his head, almost pleading. "You don't understand how deep this goes. How long we've been tied to him." Mara stared at him, seeing the panic he couldn't hide anymore. "You're still protecting him." "I'm protecting all of us." "No," Mara said softly. "You're protecting yourself." Cain's eyes hardened again, the sheriff returning to the surface. "If she stays with you," he said, "you'll both regret it." Leah clutched Mara's shirt. Mara didn't move. Cain stepped back from the fence, his shadow stretching long behind him in the weak morning light. He stared at them one last time before turning away. "You don't know what you're protecting," he repeated, voice low. Then he disappeared into the thinning darkness, leaving the fence line trembling behind him. Mara locked the door the moment she stepped back inside, her hands stiff from gripping the shotgun for too long. Leah hovered near the hallway wall, eyes wide, breath shallow. The sheriff's last words clung to the silence, heavy enough to bend it. Mara leaned the shotgun against the counter and ran a hand through her hair. "He's losing control," she said. Leah shook her head. "No. He's scared." "Of Reeves? Of losing his deal?" Mara faced her. "What deal?" Leah swallowed hard. "The one that keeps Reeves free." Mara felt her pulse thud once, sharp. "Why would your father protect him?" Leah sat slowly at the kitchen table, as if her knees might give out. "Because Reeves saved my grandfather. Years ago. Dad says our family owes him everything." Mara narrowed her eyes. "Your grandfather was powerful. People feared him." Leah nodded. "Dad still carries his shadow. And Reeves, he was the one who made that shadow real." Mara sat across from her. "Tell me what you remember." Leah wrung her fingers together. "I didn't know his name when I was younger. I thought he was a dream. A nightmare. A ghost in the hallway." Dad always told me to stay in my room when I heard footsteps. Mara leaned in. Footsteps? Leah nodded. Slow. Heavy. Like each step hurt the house. I'd hear him breathing outside my door. Sometimes he whispered through the crack, but I could never understand the words. Her eyes darkened. I thought it was my imagination until last week. What happened last week? Leah's voice dropped to a whisper. Dad let him in. Mara froze. You saw them together? No. I heard them. Dad said, she's getting older. She's starting to notice things. And Reeves said, then teach her. Dad didn't argue. Mara felt something bitter rise in her throat. Your father let Reeves near you. Leah looked down. He said Reeves owned a piece of our family. That the debt had to be paid. Mara gripped the edge of the table. Leah, who tied you to that fence? Leah closed her eyes. Reeves. Mara held her breath. Leah continued, voice thin. He took me from my room while Dad pretended to sleep. He covered my mouth and dragged me outside. I tried to fight, but he's stronger than he looks. He whispered that Dad wanted me to understand the rules. He said the fence would teach me silence. A tear slid down her cheek. He said it was just the beginning. Mara felt every muscle in her body tighten. Your father let him do that to you? Leah nodded. Why? Because Reeves did something for him once. Something terrible. Dad says without Reeves, we'd all be dead. Mara shook her head. What did Reeves do? Leah hesitated. Dad said Reeves buried evidence. Something that would have destroyed the family. Something grandfather did. Mara swallowed hard. And now your father protects him to keep the past hidden. Leah whispered, I think he wants me gone. Mara's blood ran cold. Gone? I think Dad knows Reeves won't stop. And instead of fighting him, he's letting him finish what he started. Mara stood abruptly, her chair scraping the floor. Not anymore. Leah looked up fast. Mara. Mara's voice was sharp and certain. We end this tonight. Leah stared at her like she wasn't sure she heard right. How? We find Reeves, Mara said. We confront him. And we make your father choose whose life he's willing to destroy. Leah shook her head violently. No. You don't understand what Reeves is. He doesn't move like a normal man. He doesn't talk like one. He feels like something that crawled out of a place people shouldn't go. Mara crouched in front of her. I don't care what he is. He's hurting you. And I'm not letting that continue. Leah's eyes filled with fresh fear. He won't be alone. Dad will defend him. I've faced worse than your father, Mara said. But Reeves, that's different. He's not just a man. Leah whispered, then why are you doing this? Because someone has to. Leah looked down, tears falling silently. You'll get killed. Mara shook her head. I'm not dying before I get you free. A soft thud echoed outside the window, like something brushing against the siding. Leah's breath hitched and she grabbed Mara's sleeve. He's close, she whispered. Mara stood, grabbing the shotgun again. Good, she said. Then we won't have to look far. Leah wiped her eyes, fear and determination mixing in her gaze. Where do we start? Mara stared toward the dark tree line beyond the window. Where he hides. Where he's always hidden. The places your father won't talk about. The old cellar, the back roads, the abandoned sheds. Leah shivered. You're serious. Dead serious, Mara said. We end this tonight. Leah took a deep breath and nodded. And for the first time, she didn't look afraid of Reeves. Just ready. Mara packed fast. A flashlight, extra shells, a coil of rope, a rusted crowbar she kept by the barn door. Leah stood in the kitchen doorway, arms wrapped around herself, trying not to shake. The house felt too still, too watchful, like walls leaned closer to hear what they were planning. Mara grabbed her coat and nodded toward the door. "We're leaving now." Leah hesitated. "Where?" "Somewhere your father avoids. Somewhere Reeves used to sleep." Leah's eyes widened. "You know where that is?" "I know where people said it was." Leah swallowed. "The cellar." Mara didn't confirm or deny. She opened the door and motioned Leah out into the cool night. The sky above was a low stretch of dark, no stars, clouds thick like smoke. Leah clung close as they crossed the yard to the truck. Mara helped her climb in, slammed her door shut, and circled to the driver's side. The engine turned over with a tired groan, headlights slicing through the dark road ahead. Leah stared out the window, fingers pressed to the glass. "He used to take me down roads like this in my dreams," she whispered. Except, they weren't dreams. Mara kept her eyes forward. "We'll find proof. We'll end this." Leah glanced at the empty back seat, then back to the window, unable to settle. "Do you hear it?" she asked quietly. "Hear what?" "The breathing." Mara didn't answer. She didn't hear anything, but the tension crawling up Leah's spine was enough to make her grip the wheel tighter. "We'll get through this," she said. The truck rolled deeper into the woods, the dirt path narrowing into a tunnel of branches. Old fence posts leaned sideways, swallowed by weeds. Leah's voice broke the silence. "Dad used to warn me never to come out here." "I know," Mara said. "He said the land wasn't ours. Said things lived out here that didn't care about who you belonged to." "He meant Reeves," Mara muttered. "No," Leah whispered. "I think he meant something worse." Mara didn't respond. She slowed the truck as the trees opened into a clearing. The old storm cellar sat crooked in the center, half sunk, covered in dead vines. The wooden doors hung loose, one dangling from a broken hinge like a mouth forced open. Leah gripped Mara's sleeve. "It smells like him," she said, voice trembling. "I remember." Mara shut off the engine. "Stay close. Don't run. No matter what you see." They stepped out, the cold air biting their cheeks. Mara raised the flashlight, its beam soft and shaky across the cellar door. The smell hit them instantly, damp earth, mildew, and something sour underneath. Leah covered her nose. "That's it. That's what my room smells like when he's been there." Mara's stomach turned. "Then he's been here recently." She knelt beside the cellar door, nudging it with the crowbar. The wood creaked loudly, echoing through the clearing. Leah flinched at the sound. Mara pushed harder. The door snapped open, dust spilling upward in a cloud. Mara lowered the flashlight beam inside. Boot prints in the dirt. Rope scraps. A half-crushed metal cup. Someone had been living down here. Someone who didn't want to be found. Leah stepped closer, eyes fixed on the impressions in the dirt. "Those prints, they look fresh." "They are," Mara said. Leah's hands began to shake again. "What if he's still here? Then we end this sooner than planned." Leah followed Mara down the wooden steps, each one groaning under their weight. The air inside was thick and stale, heavy enough to cling to their skin. The deeper they went, the colder it became, as if the earth itself held its breath. Mara swept the flashlight across the small underground room. A cot pushed in the corner. An old trunk left open. A pile of blankets. And on the wall, 3 long marks, clawed into stone like someone dragged metal fingers down it. Leah's voice cracked. "He waited for me." Mara stepped forward, examining the trunk. Inside were coils of rope, a torn sheriff's badge, and a faded photograph of Kane's father standing beside a tall man wearing a gray hat. "Reeves." Mara shut the trunk slowly. "Your father lied." Leah backed away, eyes filling with terror. "He said Reeves was gone." "He's not gone," Mara whispered. "He's hunting." Something shifted behind them. A breath, long, low, human, but not warm. Leah froze. Mara turned slowly, shotgun rising, flashlight trembling across the cellar walls. A voice came from the darkness behind them. You shouldn't have come. The voice slid through the cellar like a knife dragged across stone. Leah stumbled backward, hitting the wall, her breath strangled in her throat. Mara swung the flashlight toward the sound. The beam trembled across the far corner, catching a shape peeling itself out of the dark. A tall man stepped forward, slow and deliberate, wearing a gray hat stained with age. His boots dragged the dirt like he carried chains around his ankles. His face was pale under the brim, eyes shadowed but unmistakably alive. Reeves. Leah whimpered, sinking lower along the wall. Mara steadied herself, shotgun raised, though her pulse hammered so loudly she could barely hear anything else. Reeves chuckled softly, the same breathy laugh Leah had described. You two make quite a picture, he said. Little lamb and her shepherd. Mara's voice came out low and flat. Step away from her. Reeves tilted his head. You think that gun matters down here? It'll matter if I pull the trigger. He smiled, a slow, strange curl of lips that had no warmth. You won't. Mara kept the shotgun aimed at his chest. Try me. Reeves took one more step into the beam of light. Leah sobbed quietly, covering her ears as if his presence hurt. He looked at her with a kind of ownership that made Mara's stomach twist. You didn't have to drag her here, Mara said. She never should have been part of this. Reeves raised a brow. Part of what? The deal, Mara spat. The debt your kind think lasts forever. Reeves let out a low, amused breath. So Kane's been talking. Not enough. Reeves looked around the cellar like it was a memory. This town was built on promises. On men who understood what had to be done. Your sheriff's father understood that. He built order out of chaos. But order needs hands willing to dirty themselves. Mara's grip tightened. Hands like yours. Hands he trusted, Reeves corrected. Hands that buried things that didn't need to be found. Leah pressed herself tighter against the wall. You hurt people, she whispered. Reeves looked at her slowly. Your grandfather asked me to. Every man who came before your father knew the cost. Your father knows it too. He let you in the house, Leah said, voice breaking. He let you near me. Reeves nodded once. He keeps the deal. He honors the family that made him sheriff. Mara stepped slightly in front of Leah. That's not honor. That's fear. Reeves chuckled. You speak like someone who's never had power to lose. I have enough to protect her, Mara said. Do you? Reeves asked. Or are you just another woman playing hero in a house that isn't hers? Mara didn't move. You're done hurting her. Reeves took another slow step. No, Mara Hale. She's the last thread of an old promise. She belongs to the men who built this place. Leah's breath hitched. I'm not yours. Reeves leaned slightly to look at her. You're your father's daughter. Which means you're your grandfather's legacy. And that makes you mine. Mara cut in sharply. She's a child. Reeves shrugged. Children grow. Secrets grow with them. And sometimes, they have to be trimmed. Leah flinched, curling into herself. Mara's rage sharpened into something cold and lethal. Come closer, she said quietly, and see what happens. Reeves stopped. His eyes flicked to the shotgun. You think I care about dying? I think you care about losing control, Mara answered. His expression darkened. You don't understand what you're fighting. Then explain, Mara said. Reeves stepped back a little, posture relaxing as if settling into a story he'd told himself 100 times. Your sheriff's father gave me his loyalty. His son continued it. Our deal was simple. I protect this family. They protect me from the law. That protection included discipline, lessons, sacrifices. Mara's stomach twisted. Leah's not a sacrifice. She's a witness, Reeves said. The last one who knows what her family really is. Leah forced herself to speak. I don't want anything to do with them. Reeves smiled down at her, slow and chilling. But you already do. Mara's voice cut through the cellar like steel. You're not touching her again. Reeves stepped forward. The knife appeared in his hand, pulled from his coat so quietly Mara barely saw the motion. He raised it, eyes locked on Mara. Let's finish this the old way, Reeves said, stepping into striking distance. And Mara braced herself to fight. Reeves lunged first. Mara swung the shotgun up, but he struck the barrel aside with the butt of his knife, metal clanging through the cellar. The force sent Mara stumbling, her shoulder slamming into the wall. Leah screamed, scrambling back, trying to make herself disappear. Reeves moved fast for a man who dragged his feet, every motion sharp and trained, like violence was a language he'd spoken his whole life. Mara steadied her grip and swung again, catching Reeves across the ribs with the shotgun stock. He grunted but didn't fall. Instead he grabbed the barrel, yanked it forward, and pulled Mara toward him so close she could smell the old smoke lingering on him. You don't belong in this fight, he hissed. Mara forced the shotgun upward, shoving him back an inch. I'm already in it. Reeves shoved her away, sending her crashing into the cot. The blankets tumbled over her legs, tangling her feet. He stepped forward, knife glinting in the dim light. Leah cried out, "Stop! Leave her alone!" Reeves didn't even look at her. This is between the men who built this place and the people who tried to tear it down. Mara rolled off the cot, kicking the blankets aside. Funny, she said through clenched teeth. I don't see any men here worth following. Reeves lunged again. Mara dodged, the knife slicing through the air close enough that she felt the cold whisper of it against her cheek. She grabbed the crowbar off the floor and swung hard. Reeves blocked with his forearm, the impact sending a shiver through both of them. Leah pressed herself flat against the cellar wall, eyes wide with terror. Mara, stop! He's going to kill you. Mara didn't take her eyes off Reeves. Not today. Reeves kicked her leg out from under her. She hit the ground hard, crowbar skidding away. Before she could recover, Reeves pinned her shoulder with his boot and raised the knife high. This town was built on blood, he said. And I'm just keeping tradition. Get off her. Leah screamed. Reeves didn't hear her anymore. His eyes were fixed on Mara, cold and fixed like a man finishing a job he'd done too many times. Leah acted before she could think. She grabbed the nearest thing on the floor, an old wooden crate, and hurled it at Reeves with everything she had. It struck the back of his shoulders. Reeves staggered, knife dipping just enough for Mara to wrench herself free. Mara scrambled up, gasping, grabbing the shotgun again. Reeves steadied himself, turning toward Leah with a look that made Mara's blood freeze. You, he growled. Leah backed into the wall. Stay away from me. Reeves stepped toward her, knife lowering, not in surrender but in purpose. Your father promised you would obey. No, Mara said sharply. Reeves didn't stop. No, Mara repeated, louder this time. Reeves turned just as she raised the shotgun and fired, not a shell, but the stock cracking against his jaw as she swung upward with everything she had. Reeves stumbled, dropping the knife long enough for Mara to shove him back. The cellar door at the top of the stairs slammed open. Leah gasped. Mara froze. Sheriff Kane stood in the doorway, eyes wild, chest heaving. His gun was drawn, hands shaking. Reeves slowly lifted his head, blood trickling from his lip. About damn time, he muttered. Finish it. Like your father would. Kane stared down at him, torn between dread and rage. I never wanted this. You owe me, Reeves hissed. You owe the family. You owe the deal. Leah stepped forward, voice breaking. Daddy, please. Cain looked at her, really looked at her, and his face crumpled with something close to shame. Reeves reached for the fallen knife. Leah screamed, "Daddy, choose!" And the cellar held its breath. Sheriff Cain froze at the bottom of the steps, gun raised but shaking so badly the barrel couldn't find a target. Reeves crouched low, fingers brushing the fallen knife, breath heavy and ragged. Mara stepped in front of Leah, shotgun across her chest, body braced like she'd take the hit first if she had to. The cellar felt too tight, too low, suffocating under the weight of a decision that had been waiting decades. Cain's eyes darted between them. "Move," he said, voice cracking. "No," Mara answered. "Mara," he warned, "get out of the way." Reeves snarled, reaching again for the knife. "Cain, finish what your father started." Leah shook her head violently. "Daddy, don't listen. Please. Please." Cain squeezed his eyes shut for a second, the gun trembling harder. "I didn't want this," he whispered. Reeves laughed, cruel and dry. "You never want anything. You just obey. That's why the family picked you." "Stop," Cain said. "You're nothing without me," Reeves pressed. "Your father knew that. You know that. Your daughter will learn it too." Cain's jaw locked. His arm steadied a fraction. Leah took one step toward him, tears streaking down her face. "Daddy, please look at me." Cain looked. Really looked. And something inside him cracked. Reeves saw it. His eyes narrowed. "She's weak," he spat. "She'll talk. She'll ruin everything the family built. You know what has to be done." Cain's breath came fast. "I'm not killing my daughter." Reeves hissed, "Then I'll do it." He lunged for Leah. Mara shoved Leah back and lifted the shotgun, but Reeves was faster. His hand closed around the knife, body twisting toward the girl with a violence that ripped the air apart. A single gunshot exploded through the cellar. Reeves jerked, body rigid. He turned slowly, eyes wide with disbelief as he stared at the new hole in his chest. Sheriff Cain stood behind him, gun still raised, arm finally steady. Smoke curled from the barrel. Cain looked like a man who just stepped out of a nightmare and realized he'd been part of it. Reeves collapsed to his knees, breath rattling. His hat slid off, rolling across the dirt. He tried to speak but only blood filled his mouth. His body fell forward, hitting the ground with a dull thud that shook dust from the ceiling. Leah sobbed into Mara's shoulder. Mara held her tight, keeping her eyes on the sheriff. Cain stared at Reeves's body, hands shaking again, gun lowering. "I should have stopped him years ago," he whispered. Mara didn't answer. She didn't need to. Cain's face broke, a lifetime of secrets collapsing all at once. "I failed her," he said, his voice hollow. "I failed my own child." Leah stepped out from Mara's arms, wiping her face with trembling hands. She looked at her father with something between grief and recognition. "Daddy. I'm not going back." Cain nodded slowly, tears gathering but never falling. "I know. I can't live in that house anymore," Leah said softly. "I know," he repeated, voice barely more than breath. He set his gun on the floor gently, like placing a burden down at last. "I never should have let him near you. I thought I could control it. I thought I could protect what was left of our name." His voice cracked. "But I lost you instead." Leah took a small step back. "I don't hate you," she whispered. "But I'm not safe with you." Cain closed his eyes in pain but didn't argue. "If she wants to stay with you," he said to Mara, "don't let me take her back." "I won't," Mara replied. Cain nodded once, defeated, shoulders sagging under a lifetime of silence finally breaking. The three of them climbed the cellar steps together, leaving Reeves's body behind as the first real light of dawn touched the clearing. And for the first time, Leah didn't look over her shoulder. Mara guided Leah up the final steps, her hands steady on the girl's back. Dawn stretched across the clearing in thin stripes of pale gold, warming the cold that clung to their clothes. Sheriff Kane stood a few feet away, staring at his hands like he didn't know who they belonged to anymore. His gun lay forgotten in the dirt. Leah kept her eyes on Mara, unable to look at him for more than a second at a time. Mara opened the truck door and helped Leah in. The girl moved slowly, sore, shaken, but clearer somehow. Kane took a step forward. Leah stiffened instantly, breath freezing in her chest. Mara turned just enough to block his view. Kane lifted a hand halfway, then let it fall. "I'm not here to take her," he said. Mara didn't soften. "Good." Kane swallowed hard, eyes red. "I don't know how to fix this." "You can't," Mara said. "Not today. Maybe not ever." Leah leaned forward, gripping the back of Mara's seat. "Daddy?" Kane looked at her like the sound of her voice was something he never thought he'd hear again. "Yes?" "I'm not coming home." His face fell, but he nodded. "I know." "I can't be in that house," Leah whispered. "Not with the memories. Not with everything that happened." Kane closed his eyes a moment, pained. "Then you won't be." "I won't force you." Mara studied him closely, making sure he was telling the truth this time. Kane lowered his head, shoulders slumped, stripped of every ounce of authority he once wore like armor. "I'll deal with the deputies," he said quietly. "I'll make sure Reeves's name disappears for good. I'll handle the town. You don't need to worry about anyone coming after her." Mara didn't thank him. "She's staying with me," she said instead. Kane nodded, defeated. "Take care of her." "I will." Leah drew in a shaky breath. "Daddy. I don't hate you." Kane almost broke at that. "You should," he whispered. "I don't," Leah said. "But I can't forgive you yet." He nodded again, words gone, grief settling over him like dust. Mara climbed into the truck, shut the door, and started the engine. Leah looked back only once. Kane stood alone in the clearing, the rising light catching his face as he wiped at his eyes. They drove in silence, the woods thinning behind them. The road opened into the quiet stretch leading to Mara's ranch. Leah leaned her head against the window, letting the morning breeze seep through the small crack Mara left open. "Are you okay?" Mara asked softly. "I don't know," Leah answered. "But I feel lighter." Mara nodded. "That's enough for now." They reached the ranch house, the porch light still glowing from the night before. Mara parked and helped Leah out. The girl hesitated, staring at the porch steps like they were the threshold to a new life. "You're safe here," Mara said. Leah's voice wavered. "How long can I stay?" "As long as you want. Forever if you need." Leah blinked hard, eyes filling with something soft. "I choose here." Mara smiled, small but real. "Then here it is." She guided Leah inside, settling her on the couch with a blanket. Leah sank into it, exhaustion pulling at her limbs. Mara walked to the kitchen, grabbed a kettle, and filled it with water. As it warmed on the stove, Leah watched her with quiet trust. "Mara," she said. "Yeah? Why did you help me?" Mara paused, leaning against the counter. "Because someone should have. Because you deserved better than the silence you were given." Leah nodded slowly. "Thank you." Mara's chest tightened. "Rest now." Leah curled into the blanket, eyes drifting shut. Mara stepped outside to breathe in the fresh morning air. The fence where she'd found Leah still stood, a strip of barbed wire catching the first sunlight. Mara walked over, pulled out her pocket knife, and cut down the last piece of rope still tied to the post. It fell to the dirt with a soft thud, the final remnant of the girl's suffering. The ranch woke around her, quiet, steady, safe. And for the first time, Leah was part of it.